This is my homemade sailboat that I've been building from the ground up. Yes, that's correct. And I've set myself a challenge that I have to completely retransform the interior within the next 2 days. My main goal is to make the interior nicer than Elon Musk's house. Hopefully this isn't a complete disaster though, because I've never built a boat before. This is my first one. With that said, let's get to work. Also, if you're curious, all other boat videos are linked in the description. So, today's the day. It is day 1 of transforming the interior of my sailboat. I am starting a little later than I would want to, but that's alright. With all that stated, let the challenge commence. First, I really need to add some floor support, and I also need to add the keel support, so I'm going to be using some 2x4s to do that. This is some old footage, but I thought it would be beneficial. Here's my first mini challenge. I have to match the angle of the supports with the angle of the hull. It's critical that I get these angles perfect to prevent any future problems. So, I thought up of an idea. I've made this simple little angle finder out of cardboard, so it should help me get the job done and find the right angle. I then got the rest of the supports framed out and ready for install. Using a jigsaw, I cut out some small notches in the 2x4s in order to make the supports fit better inside the cabin. So a lot of you are gonna be a little upset with me, but I am gonna drill through the hole to install these supports. For the supports that are directly touching a bulkhead, I just added some small spacer blocks just so I could get a better fit, and it just makes it a lot easier for me to install them. First, I'm just gonna lightly secure the supports with some thickened epoxy and some stainless steel screws, and then I will lift up the boat and add some more screws from the underneath. Alright, so the first one is on and it's looking pretty good. Also, don't worry, when I add all of these supports, everything will get fiberglassed and it should be pretty strong. So now let's move on to the middle one. Okay, so got the middle one done. Now let's just move on to the last one. Overall, the installation process for these supports wasn't too difficult nor time consuming. Alright, support number 3 has been added. Before I go underneath the boat and add the screws into the supports, I do have some extra 2x4s, which I will be using to add some more supports, but going in this direction. After cutting these guys out, I just quickly glued them together, but before I install them into their proper spots, check this out. Got the new GoPro 11, so hopefully the interior clip should be much better. Before I install these supports and drill in some screws from underneath the boat, I need to roughly fit in these keel supports and drill some more holes. Excusez-moi, monsieur. Merci. I whipped up a nice little batch of thickened epoxy, and now I'm just simply gonna start installing these guys. All right. Das ist einfach. Just a little bit. Junior spot. Not gonna lie, this was pretty therapeutic. It was also pretty satisfying to see the floor change and become much more rigid. This made me quite excited because previously the cabin flooded and the floor was severely warped. I was also able to crank it out fairly quickly. Okay, let's do the big guy in the middle. Oh man, that was my last 3-inch screw. I think I have just enough. Man. The interior supports have been roughly installed, and now Mark is gonna help me deadlift the front of the boat so we can get her up on an angle so I can get underneath and add the rest of the screws. All right, watch this deadlift or squat, whatever you call it. It's under. Wait, okay. That's good enough, good enough. Once the boat was propped up, I got underneath and started the process of adding more screws. This is great. My bit just broke for no reason, so gotta find another one.
Bro, I'm not joking. I just broke another one, and this one's stuck in the impact, so. Great start so far, great start.
Even with 2 broken bits, that didn't stop me. You know why? Because I was determined to finish this section. I fought through these difficulties. I fought through the neck pain and exhaustion. I kept working on the boat. According to the great David Goggins himself, you need to push yourself. You need to challenge yourself. You need to carry the goddamn boat. Although I can't carry my boat, but I'm gonna work on it regardless of how I feel. The only easy day was yesterday.
So thank God I am done adding these screws from underneath the boat. Frankly, it was just horrible. I hated it. It was very difficult to get any leverage on the screws. It's not perfect by any means, but it's done. You can see in the cockpit, a lot of the bowing that has been occurring has now stopped. Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. With all that said, Mark and I are gonna drop the boat down and get ready for the next step.
Okay.
Good.
Oh, light work.
Wanted to get a little bit more organized with the rest of my challenge, so I made a little boat to-do list. We got the keel support made and installed. We cleaned the interior for the most part. Now it's time for the part I've been dreading, fiberglass. If you've worked with epoxy before, you probably know it can get very annoying and difficult when working in tight, cramped spaces.
It's too tight, man.
But I have to finish the boat before the summer starts and before Monday, so let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get hyped, get excited. An epic 80s montage is about to begin. You've got this.
I got this. Sorry that last clip at the very end was a little difficult to see. The sun did set, so it is a little dark outside. But all in all, I love how this turned out, and I'm actually pretty proud of my work.
I'm very sorry about these clips. The exposure on my camera was messed up for some reason, but I'm essentially sharing that after the fiberglassing, I added some wooden supports for the floorboards.
Finally, thank God all of the fiberglassing for the interior is done, and right now I think it's a great time to call it a day for day 1.
Alright, so it is day 2 of transforming the interior of the sailboat.
I am pretty excited because we finally get to paint the inside of the boat and add the flooring. I've wanted to do this for so long, and we're finally doing it. So let's go. Starting off, there are some large gaps in between the keel supports and just in some random areas around the boat. What I've done is I've grabbed some expanding foam to seal these gaps.
This was my first time using expanding foam, and it actually worked out pretty well. I can say that I'm pleased with the results. Alright, so the expanding foam looks pretty good. Now, my friend Sean and I, we're gonna cut that out before we start the painting process. Also, if you're interested, Sean has his own YouTube channel, so I have that link down below, or it's up in the corner. You should go check it out. Sean then grabbed a very thin hacksaw and went to town on the foam, cutting all the massive blobs off. I also want to mention that if you're cutting expanding foam, I suggest using saws and or knives that you don't really care about. I'm saying this because it gets pretty messy and some of the foam may stick to these items. It wasn't too difficult. I just vacuumed up all the extra foam and it is looking nice and smooth. Now, of course, I don't really care how these look because this is the storage area. This will be covered up. Although for right here, I'm just gonna put a small piece of wood on top just to cover it. Same for this side. But with this all said and done, we can now finally start the painting process. Sean will be painting the V-berth and I will get underneath and paint the storage areas underneath the cockpit. We then will meet up and paint the rest of the cabin.
New paint, the other one got f***ed up.
Going in, coat number 1.
Yeah, don't mind the mess. Pretty messy out here.
Okay. While the painting process is underway, I just want to thank Sean for helping me with this challenge. It would have taken me so much longer without his help. I also want to thank Mark for filming while Sean and I were busy painting. As you guys can see, the primer is looking pretty good. Sean just left and conveniently we just ran out of paint. So while I let this dry, I just ran to Home Depot and grabbed some more. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start at the bow and work my way to the stern and fill all these gaps which we missed. Alright guys, I am pretty hyped right now because it's been an hour and the primer is looking pretty good and it's nice and dried. So that means it's time to add the main coat. For the main coat, I'm just using this Rust-Oleum marine coating topside paint. This is the type of paint that I use to paint the topside of the boat and I thought it would go well with the inside of the boat. So this is not a sponsorship opportunity. It just took me a while to find a type of paint that I like and trusted. So to help you guys out if you're in the same boat as me, to get the joke, I left a link in the description down below to help you guys find this quickly and easily. So yeah. I then got suited up and prepped for the final painting stage. Also, I only filmed the cabin being painted because it was way too difficult to film by myself in the V-berth or under the cockpit. Alright, so it has been about an hour and a half since I added the final coat of paint and oof, it is looking fucking amazing. I'm actually very pleased with how this turned out. So, moving along for the flooring, I have acquired some cardboard. I am gonna cut out some stencils using this cardboard so I can get a better fitment for the plywood. This just ensures that I don't f*ck up. So, with that said, let's get going. To start off, I'm gonna begin with this table, just because I feel like it. Yeah. Using a thin piece of cardboard, I quickly made a simple template. It was nothing too fancy. Alright, so the template actually fits pretty well. So now I'm going to transfer this over to the sheet of plywood and get that installed. And then I will work on the surface or the countertop, whatever you want to call this.
Hope she fits. Oh, look at that. There's some gas, but that's okay. Alright, let's get her installed.
For the installation process, I used some clear super glue and then added stainless steel screws everywhere that I could. First piece is in and is looking really good. I like how it turned out. Although you guys can see that there are some gaps, such as right here, and along here. Don't worry though, I will get some white silicone to fill those. And yeah, moving along, I got started with the port side bench seat support thing. I really don't know what you call it. It's a part of the flooring though, so. The template is finished and it fits for the most part. It does not look that good, but at this point, if it works, it works, and I don't really care how it looks. After cutting her out, I just got her into place and I added a piece of wood on top to mimic a bench, and I think it looks pretty good so far. Straight across from it, I got started with the starboard side. This guy was much easier than the port side. Template completed. There we go, there's a seat panel done. Come on. Once the seat was completed, I moved on to the tabletop. Pretty good. Ooh, there we go, there is the countertop. Now the kitchen countertop, or the small table, is finished. Now that this guy is done, I'm going to work on the port side seating bench. Template done. Alright, there we go. So now the port side seating bench is in, and I'm going to work on the flooring for underneath the cockpit. To save some time both for you guys and myself, the stencil will appear into place. Wow, there it is. Wow, that was very quick. Okay, let's get this transferred over to that sheet of plywood. Careful. Careful. Oh, shoot. You guys know the drill. Voila, there is the one of the floorboards for underneath the cockpit. I'm gonna install it now, but I'm gonna do it in a very cinematic way. Cause you know, I feel like it, so. With the rear port side bench seat in, I just realized that the starboard side is an exact replica. So literally all I have to do is just make a duplicate of that guy. Alright, so the second one has been made. Now let's see if she'll fit. So she fits pretty good and I'm happy with the result. Although I have just realized a small problem. For some context, the sun is setting in 3 hours and I have about hours until the challenge is finished. My problem is that I'm completely out of plywood. That is all that I have left, and I still have to add the flooring to the V-berth and some small panels back in the storage area. So I'm gonna make a very quick run to my hardware store.
Wood has been acquired.
Now that I have more wood, let's crank out the V-berth. This template was actually pretty difficult to make. I had to constantly refit and recut it. And there we go, the first panel in the V-berth has been installed. Now let's work on the second section. For the sake of time, I'm really gonna start ramping things up and start hustling more. Alright, there we go. Let's get her installed. Okay, there we go. Alright, there we go. That looks pretty good. Let's move on to number 3. Measurements. let's move on to the final and fourth rebirth flooring panel. As you can see, I did end up making a template for this fourth floorboard. With all that said, all right, there we go.
I just got that piece in up there, and I noticed that underneath this piece of wood, there are two pieces of wood that just conveniently fit in the spaces back there. I'm just playing. I'm really short on time, so I quickly cut these guys out and made sure they fit. So now I'll install them.
The last floorboard is going in. Ooh, there we go. That looks pretty good.
At this point, the sun was setting and I was rapidly losing daylight. I just placed the camera on the time-lapse mode because I needed to finish up some small things. Underneath the tabletop are the last two interior pieces. These will cover up any foam that is still exposed inside the cabin. With those guys installed, I called it a day and finally finished the interior. Bonjour mes amis, il est 10 du matin et le défi est terminé. So I am pretty excited that the interior is finally complete for the most part, and I hope you guys are excited to see how it looks. I would also like to mention that the interior is not 100% finished. I still have to do some small things, but they will be saved for the next video. With all that said, let's take a look. I am very pleased with the results, and I think they turned out looking great. Now here are some before and after videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. I am finally on summer break and I have so many videos to share with you guys, and I am pretty excited to do that. Of course, the boat is going to get 100% of my attention because I am going to finish her this summer. But if you guys have any other video ideas, just leave them down in the comments below. Thanks.